This episode is brought to you by Mint Mobile. This fall, Mint Mobile has unlimited talk, text, and data plans for $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan. To get this new customer offer, go to mintmobile.com/TFS. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month for first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. Hello and welcome to Talk from Superheroes. Hey everybody, I'm Andrew Ivamy.
And I'm Diana McCullum.
And you're listening to Talk from Superheroes, where every week we discuss a piece of heroic television or film. And this week on the podcast, we are talking about Star Trek Nemesis.
The Nemesis, the final of the TNG Star Trek movies. 4 of 4.
I was about to say, but we just watched one. No, that was the television show. That was a full season of the Picard television show.
Until the Picard television show, this was the end of TNG.
2002 was the last hit that anybody got.
And then they were like, 20 years later, they were like, what about one more hit?
One more
hit.
It's been a little bit.
It's been quite a bit.
Who's it gonna hurt?
It didn't hurt anybody. We loved that season. You guys, go listen to that episode later.
That's also very good. But today we're talking about Star Trek Nemesis, and the reason being, we normally try to tie our things together with the new releases and
We've
whatever is.
Got algorithms.
Yeah, we've got algorithms.
Yeah, they're our algorithms. Not AI generated.
Yes.
These are ours.
These are ours. So we are tying it into Venom 3 comes out next week. We'll be talking about that soon. And we wanted to go into a Tom Hardy joint. We were kind of going through his back catalog. I didn't even realize that dude was in here, but here he is. He's the titular Nemesis.
He is the Nemesis, and this is all the way to the back of his backlog. 2002, little baby Tom Hardy.
An absolute bean. Yeah, just a little boy.
Coming out the gate as a Nemesis.
Yeah.
And then he was like, and then I'll be Venom in like 20 years.
Yeah. That's what he was saying at the time.
He had a big plan.
And everyone was talking about it. Yeah, so that's our tie-in for this week. We're talking about Star Trek Nemesis to tie in the Tom Hardy of it all, to go from a baby boy to Venom 3, just too much Venom.
So, big loser man.
Yeah, Venom 3, it's time for the final dance of Venoms. I really cannot remember what the subtitle of that movie is.
It's The Last Dance.
It's The Last Dance.
Isn't that the same subtitle as like the Michael Jordan?
It was the Michael Jordan.
So that's why I thought it was such a weird choice.
It is a bold choice, isn't it?
It's not about basketball.
Don't worry about
dancing.
it. Don't worry about it.
Then again, I haven't seen it. Maybe it is.
Maybe it is. And maybe
it is.
Maybe it is. And maybe this episode is about Star Trek Nemesis. Let's get into it. Let's talk about Star Trek Nemesis right now. All right, so we have seen Nemesis, me for the first time, if you can believe it.
If you can believe it. I mean, yeah, I guess, because you've kind of become a late life TNG fan.
Yeah, and I feel like it's also just, I say the if you can believe it because it's also just rare on this podcast to watch an old movie for the first time, I think, for either one of us. It's a lot of rewatches, a lot of things that we've seen before, but to get a completely fresh viewing is a little rare.
That is a little rare. Yeah, I guess old stuff, we've all seen it because we've been nerds our whole lives.
Yes, exactly.
So usually we've seen it. Speaking of which, I've seen it.
And you've seen it. Diana, did you like it?
I did like it. I liked it a lot more than I remembered, which was really nice. That's a nice little surprise because I did remember it being my least favorite or tied with Insurrection because I think it's like First Contact's really good. I quite like Generations, and these two are like the bottom for me. But I was surprised how much I liked it. Like off the top, the chemistry with the crew is so good at the wedding, and this first act is so alive and full of energy and relationship stuff. Everything with Tom Hardy / Shinzon is like kind of cool and melodramatic in a way that I can get behind. The plot makes a shocking amount of sense, except for like one or two things. It's like poorly paced a little bit around the second and third act, but I don't really hate it. Yeah, I guess I can kind of see why. Like, it's still like probably my third favorite, but I'm actually surprised it gets so much hate. I enjoyed it more than I thought I would, and more than I remembered liking it. So that's just a nice little surprise for Diana here on a Tuesday night. Which one? Nemesis is better than I remembered. I was going to say Insurrection again. These titles aren't different enough. Andrew, first viewing, How did you feel about Star Trek Nemesis?
Yeah, I liked it. I think it's good, not great. I agree with you. I don't really understand why this was so reviled at the time. There's maybe a few hints of like, oh, I can kind of get it if I stretch my imagination or, looking up some behind the scenes stuff. But I'm like, it's a competent movie. Yeah, it works. The through line works. The plot is functional. There's a few, tear jerkers, a couple good dramatic moments, some decent action set pieces. Is it the height of Star Trek? In no way. It's not the height of Star Trek. It's not the height of TNG movies. It's not the height of TNG. There are TNG episodes that beat this. So it's like, I understand that, like, when you set a high bar, this doesn't live up to it. This isn't the height of heights when it comes to what TNG has to offer, film or television. But it's good. It works. It's competent. I was with it the whole time. Yeah, I just didn't love it, but I liked it.
Yeah, it is kind of a weird mix, kind of a weird balance when you have a show that becomes like movies, because every movie feels like it should be better than the show. Like, you work on it so much longer, you have so much more money, it should always be better. But this definitely isn't as good as like many TNG episodes.
Yeah.
But it's still very functional. And a weird thing about 2002, and we're like, oh, it was so reviled. I think back in 2002, you didn't know any of the behind-the-scenes stuff. Like, I wouldn't have known that this wasn't directed by Jonathan Frakes and it was some guy who didn't know anything about Star Trek.
Yeah, that's fair.
That seems like a really modern-day thing we find out later where we get, like, DVD commentaries and stuff.
I mean, that does feel like the type of thing that at that time, the only fandom that would know it would be Trekkies.
Ooh, if anyone would know.
If anyone would know it, it would be them at that particular time.
We've always had message boards, haven't we?
Yeah, I think that the Trekkies would have been the fan group to be the most modern day connected when this movie came out. Yeah.
Good for them.
Good for them.
You know what?
And
it ruined the box office of this movie probably, but good for them.
Good for them. Yeah, so that's the thing. Looking this up, this has the lowest box office gross of any Star Trek film, period, which
Some of the originals are bad.
That is, I know, and we all know that it's like, as much as we keep track of what's going on at the box office, and that's more and more in the news and part of our lives, that isn't necessarily the definitive taste of the film. Like, that doesn't say whether a film is good or bad. It just says whether or not it was financially profitable. But sometimes we try to use that as a scale of the quality of a film. And this is the lowest grossing Star Trek movie. It's not the worst Star Trek movie. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't deserve that place where it is.
It doesn't. Although now I need to watch Insurrection, because maybe Insurrection's better than I remember it being too.
Oh,
maybe it is
interesting.
the worst Star Trek movie. But even if it's the worst, it's not that bad.
Yes.
Even if it's the worst, I'm like, oh no, I enjoyed this for the most part. I think it maybe gets a little slow in the middle. Other than that.
Yeah. Other than that, it's
not
fine.
a lot of complaints.
Yeah, so the general plot of this one, to kind of like recap it for those of you who haven't seen it in a long time or didn't see it, it is Tom Hardy as a clone of Jean-Luc Picard, who is on the dark side of the Romulus planet known as Remus, I think. And he takes over the Romulan Empire for like a minute, not that long.
Real fast coup.
And has like a doomsday weapon, basically has like a Romulan warbird that is also the Death Star, it would seem, where they're like, it can kill a planet. And then it's like, we need to stop that super weapon. And Romulus is a little iffy. And we don't like this, and he's a clone that's aging rapidly.
He's aging rapidly, and he needs Picard's blood to save his life. So I think that's an important plot point, because I really like that addition of, like, this is why the super-powered war machine can't blow up the Enterprise, because he needs Picard alive.
That's a good MacGuffin.
It really is a good MacGuffin on top of the Death Star-esque quality of the ship. Of like, there is a reason that he has destroyed all the Romulus ships and he hasn't destroyed the one Federation ship. And it's not just because it's the special main characters. It's like, he needs that dude's blood. He cannot blow up this ship.
He needs the blood. He needs the ship. It makes perfect sense.
It's just really nice writing. I really enjoy it. I actually think a lot of this movie makes more sense than it seems like it should, considering how much of it was deleted and how much of it is Romulan politics.
Ah, yes.
I am surprised how much of this movie actually ties in together. You know, they seed in the individual transporter in Act 1, and then they use it in Act 3 when he gets Picard out. Like, there is just really good structure here.
Yeah, and especially for Especially for not just like good structure as a standalone. You kind of brought up like things that were deleted about this movie. And like this movie has a lot of deleted scenes and some things that were on the cutting room floor. Reportedly about a third of the original movie was cut from this. And normally there's a lot of modern movies where you can tell when they've cut one or two scenes, everything is load bearing and exposition and just editing is a lost art form. This is a relatively seamless movie for a third of it to be edited out. Like, this is one where I'm like, I think whatever they edited, I haven't seen the deleted scenes. I think they were right to edit it out because I don't notice anything missing, frankly.
Yeah, I'm going to guess the stuff they edited out was all just kind of like more crew ensemble nice stuff.
Some wedding stuff, some Riker and,
Yeah, or like,
some Riker and Troy wedding stuff.
I feel like Act 1 it all mostly stayed because like the wedding feels like lush and full of just nice character interactions and it feels so lovely and you feel like you're in an ensemble. But then after that, it really is the Picard movie. It really is like, we need every scene with Picard and Tom Hardy. None of those are getting cut.
Yeah.
Every scene with Data and B4, and the rest of the crew really doesn't do anything. So I imagine most of the cut scenes are that because the plot still makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the rest of the cut scenes are anyone else on the crew who had a plot line, which is like a little bit rough if you're one of those people. I did kind of notice that, not in the deleted scene sense, but just in the sense that even a good episode of TNG and most episodes of hour-long dramatic television have an A, B, and a C storyline. This movie has an A and B and no C.
No C, 2-hour movie.
Yeah, and the A and B storylines parallel one another almost to the point of being the same, with the Data and B4 being the same person but a little different, and Picard and a clone of himself being the same person but earlier on and not having that life experience. It's like, okay, A and B you usually want to parallel. These are lines that are kind of right on top of one another. It's a little too close, and I think a C plot could have given some distance there. But other than that, I don't really notice an absence of what's going on.
Yeah, A and B are so similar, and they don't piggyback off each other or teach each other lessons in the way that, like, you would expect. Like, oh, Picard learned something about Shinzon because Data learned something about B4 or something.
Yeah.
They don't interact in a way that's interesting. You could maybe argue there's a C plot about Riker and Deanna getting revenge on Ron Perlman, but it's pretty minimal.
It's 3 scenes. It's 3 scenes. That is loose and flimsy.
That is loose.
I don't
and
even
flimsy.
know why that random Remisian. I don't even know what we're calling them.
Remans. Because I keep thinking they're saying Freemans like in Dune.
Ah, okay.
So think of Freeman without the F.
Okay,
That'll help.
So the why that one random Reman, the Viceroy, played by Ron Perlman, has Vulcan touch telepathy, like, and he can transfer it to other people, including the guy. I don't know what's going on there. That just kind of exists.
Yeah, Romulans, as far as I know, don't have intense telepathy powers. Even Vulcans have pretty like low level, and they're like related somewhat to the Romulans.
Yeah, to send a telepathic
sexual
assault to space through another person,
not even
his own.
No,
he's doing it for his buddy.
Yeah, Tom Hardy's
for Shinzon.
Tom Hardy is like, I've never seen a human woman. I gotta mentally bang this one. Can you do me a solid? It's not related to the plot, you guys.
Yeah.
It is easily the thing I would remove very quickly and instantly from this movie.
1,000%.
Because it doesn't add anything. They love mentally assaulting Deanna. This happened in an episode I watched like literally 3 days ago where like there was a telepath on board and he was putting everyone into comas and everyone else went into a coma during like a traumatic memory that was real, like Crusher's husband dying and I forget what Riker's was, but Deanna's moment was like her and Will having consensual sex, and then he turns it into like a sexual assault with his mind. And I'm like, stop doing this to this poor actress and fictional woman, to both these people. This is terrible.
Yeah, it's really bad.
It's really bad. Who keeps putting this in storylines?
And just
it's not okay just because it's only in her head.
And non-meaningful storylines as well. It's like maybe once or twice if it's written delicately in a way that has any kind of a meaning or purpose, but it's just one like, hey, it's not real, so we're allowed to do it. Like, I actually don't think you are, especially with that attitude. If you have that attitude towards it, I actually don't. I don't think you are allowed to do it.
Yeah, it can be. If you're right, if you handle it delicately, it can be a metaphor for kind of assaults and violations, because it actually is, and kind of a lighter way of talking about it and bringing it to justice and like believing people. But they've never done that. They've only ever been like, yeah, Deanna got messed up again.
Wow. That lets you know that guy's a bad dude. I'm like, he's firing on the ship.
Riker's gonna kick his ass.
But also he's firing on the ship. We don't need an extra layer.
We don't. It did give Deanna a cool moment where she got to like find him mentally. I'll say that. That's actually like
that
a
was
pretty
not bad.
fun moment.
That was pretty good.
Telepathically finding a cloaked ship with the guy who you hate on it. It's pretty badass.
And like guiding Worf's hand over like the quadrant to show where to fire the missile. That was pretty badass and pretty cool. So I did really like that. Yeah.
I will say, going back, I said I think nothing is deleted from Act 1 probably because the wedding was so lush. I'm going to delete that because Wesley doesn't say anything.
Yeah, so you know Wesley was deleted.
Well, there's no way they brought poor Will Wheaton on. They were like, you don't get lines, just sit there.
Yeah, I think they knew those scenes were getting deleted from Jump Street. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think when they brought Will Wheaton on, they were like, yeah, film your scenes, Will. I don't think they planned on keeping those
there's
in.
A cute Diana Young fan base who would have gone. You got one Wesley in the trailer, I would have been there 3 times.
In 2002?
That's when he was the cutest, and I had money for movies.
After TNG?
Yeah, I mean, I was in 2002. I was in grade 10. Oh yeah, grade 10, Diana.
All right.
She was Wesley Crusher.
Withdrawn. I can't relate. I can't tell you what you did. Withdrawn.
Thank you.
Withdrawn.
Thank you for withdrawn. But it's also like, what are you doing here, man? You're supposed to be light. This is quite.
Oh yeah, he's supposed to be a being of light. Yes, he's supposed to be a being of light.
You know your wedding fucking rules when a being of light shows up.
Yeah. Well, I think that might be one of the deleted scenes. Hey, why is a being of light here? And then it's like, whoosh, woomph, and then he takes a human form. He's like,
you think I do not think they filmed this.
No,
like that.
No, I know. I also don't think that happened.
Oh, you're joking.
I'm having kind of a lighthearted jest here.
Oh, shit, having a little jest.
I've been known to be jocular a time or two.
On my Star Trek episode, on our beautiful episode about the very serious Star Trek Nemesis.
I'll do it to you.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Do it to me.
Yeah, very good.
How do you feel about the titular Nemesis? How do we feel about Tom Hardy?
Oh, interesting. I feel pretty good about him, but I'm not in love with it. I feel like nemesis is a strong word, frankly.
Oh, I mean, maybe the nemesis was inside of us all along because it's you.
Yeah, it's you.
The nemesis is a clone of you.
Is your younger self.
Oh, my younger self was terrible.
And you know what? I can actually get on board with that, but yeah, I still think nemesis is a strong word. It's really just like a weird clone and like 24 messed up hours. So
it's a pretty short time to have a nemesis.
It's a pretty short period of time. I will say I like Tom Hardy's performance, and I like his scenes. I like his scenes with Picard. I like his scenes with Patrick Stewart. They play off of each other really well. Like that dinner between the two of them is done really well, of like talking about their youth and looking up at the stars. I like them playing off of one another. I think big picture, his character isn't written in a way where I like care about why he's trying to do any of this or the urgency of any of this or even just kind of his threat level, frankly. But the interpersonal relationship, the way he plays the character, the scene with Picard, I really dig that. What about you?
I agree with everything you just said. Yeah, I think their chemistry was great. It was really like you really could feel like Picard was interested and that Shinzon was like desperate to know Picard and know where he came from and know who he was. There was a really like palpable, I don't know if I want to say chemistry, but energy between the two in their scenes. And like, I just like the way Tom Hardy talks. And I think he was like very, very engaging. But I agree that I wasn't like rooting for Shinzon. I wasn't like, oh, I get where he's coming from. Mm-hmm. The writing wasn't quite as there as the performance level was. And you're right. Yeah. Like, it's like there was no reason for this urgency. I don't know why the Remans made you their leader. I know why you were on this planet, but I don't know how you got to be like leader status of a race of people you're not from.
It seems like the Viceroy was taking advantage of you, but we don't really kind of develop that in any way. Like the Viceroy is like, you've got to do it before you die. And why? I don't really know.
The ship still exists.
Yeah, because they have the ultimate weapon. Mm-hmm. I think the backstory of him being him being an abandoned TNG plot, I think is kind of sad as a writing exercise to be like the introduction of his character is him being like, I'm a clone. The Romulans had this plan to clone you, and then I was going to replace you, and then you would secretly be a Romulan agent. But they didn't do that, so that didn't happen. And I'm like, oh, okay, so just like an abandoned TNG script is who this character is. There's something kind of interesting about that, and there's something also kind of sad about that being a character's backstory.
Now, do you mean sad as in like what a sad like writing exercise, or do you mean like I feel sad for Shinzon?
I feel sad for Shinzon.
I also feel sad.
A little
I think this is actually a really cool idea of why there would be a clone of Picard. It's like, oh yeah, the Romulans absolutely would have done that, clone you and put in a usurper in your place. But it's also like, yeah, changes of government really fuck up plans, huh?
Yeah,
it's so real. It's so real.
Plots getting lost in bureaucracy is so real. It's so real.
It actually makes the Romulans feel like the most fleshed out race I've seen. Because normally it's like the Ferengi are greedy, and that's all you ever have to know about them, and nothing ever changes about them. And like the Vulcans have no emotions. Don't worry about it. But these guys being like, yeah, so we voted the other way, so now all the clones are going to the mines. It's like, yeah, man.
It makes it feel like there is a Romulus out there for which there is a Romulus TNG series that has a bunch of plot lines. You know what I mean? Like, for the most part, other alien species feel like an accessory to what we have going on, with the exceptions of the Cardassians, which, because Deep Space Nine is on its own fucking shit.
Yeah, they fleshed them out really well.
They're going hog over there on DS9, let me tell you.
Andrew can't even handle
what's going on on DS9. But for the most part, everyone else just kind of only seems to exist as a prop to what's going on in the Federation, to the point where, like, we were even talking the other day, like, I would love to see a story from, like, the Klingon perspective of, like, Q or someone from Q's species just doing the TNG type goofs, but on a Klingon ship. And Klingons are like, we do not have the patience for this. We do not have the patience for a Q-like, goofy little incorporeal space pixie. We don't like it. We're mad all the time. Like, I would love to see the goofy shit that the Federation has to deal with on someone else's level. And a clone getting lost in bureaucracy is, you know, a dark version, but a version of that, of like, there's some shit going on elsewhere.
Yeah. There's stuff you don't see about these races. Yeah, you're right. If Q ever showed up, the Klingons would just be wiped out. Humanity gets tested all the time, and I'm like, no other races would pass these tests.
Maybe Vulcans. Maybe Vulcans. Maybe. But
not in a way Q would find fun.
Well, I actually think Q would abandon the trials due to boredom.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
So you'd be like, they figured it out.
They agreed to the trial.
Logical, yes.
Yeah.
We should be tried.
They filed their paperwork. They're issuing summons. Like, what is going on here?
They asked what they could do to help me make this better and faster.
Yep. So yeah, that would be going. But yes, it's silly, but funny, but kind of sad that he is the rejected plot line of something else going on out there.
Yeah, and I really wish the writing like reflected how interesting this story was a little more.
Agreed.
Because the writing, like, you've set up such cool things with the B4 parallel and the Shinzon and Picard parallel, and there's a bit of a discussion of nature versus nurture, but but nothing really interesting happens. Mm-hmm. The most interesting thing that happens in this movie is when Shinzon thinks he knows what Picard will do, because he's like, we're the same person. But Picard is like, I know what I was like when I was young. You don't know what I'm like when I'm older.
Yeah.
And so he knows what Shinzon's going to do, and he rams him, and it like actually works. That's the only kind of really interesting kind of introspective of what it means to have a clone and to be seen and to be perceived and understood. Because nothing with B4 and Data matters or works.
No.
And there's only just a few conversations between Picard and Shinzon where it's like, okay, yeah, because Shinzon just keeps saying, you'd be me if you lived my life. I'm like, but would he?
Frankly, I think that like B4 and Data are meant to be the B storyline, like the parallel undercurrent that kind of it mirrors what's going on between Picard and Shinzon. But I think it's actually done better with B4 and with Data, this idea of like, are you your memories? And Data's confidence of like he's not me. He doesn't try to achieve what I try to achieve. But the idea of like that potential resting within B4 that we see at the ending to be like the potential of youth versus the collective experience of memories. I think it's explored way better with B4 and Data. And then with Picard and Shinzon, it's really just more like, hey, I was in a bad environment, so I'm kind of a rough dude. And it's like, well, are you? You talk about having a broken nose and a broken chin, and that's why you look a little different. You've led a hard life. But mostly we see, like, you've got a cool ship that we don't really know who built it or where it came from.
Yeah, you didn't build it seems.
Your viceroy is doing telepathic stuff for you.
You're constantly dying.
It was a spy who killed the Senate. So we actually haven't really seen him accomplish anything, but it is, I agree, such a cool premise of a character, of a discarded clone. And if you have the genetic potential of Jean-Luc Picard, what does that type of clever negotiator and strategist look like when they've come out of a very dangerous environment? And that's someone who I want to be scared of. Mm-hmm. But I was never scared of him.
No, they never showed us why everyone follows him to such a degree. Like why this woman would be willing to kill the entire Senate of Romulus. Like that's insane.
Yeah.
That's like that is like cult level act that you were following through here right now.
So how did he get that high?
You never find out how he got that high. Here's another thing I really like about this storyline as well, though, for Picard. So many storylines for Picard throughout all the years and all the movies and Picard the show are about Picard's legacy and how he doesn't have children. And I really like that they were like, he's a clone, but this is not about children or legacy. He does not want Picard to look at him as a son. He does not want to look at Picard as a father. He just looks at Picard as his future and as like a framework for his life.
A mirror. They keep saying mirror.
Yes.
Yeah.
Two sides of the same coin kind of bullshit maybe.
Yeah.
But I really like that because there's so much Picard shit about like, oh, he's got no legacy and no children. It's so sad. And I'm like, let the man live and just have adventures. And I do love how like free and at peace Picard feels in this whole movie.
Yeah.
This whole movie feels like Jean-Luc figured out his life and is totally happy.
That is nice.
He's at like the crux of his journey. He's like, oh, I'm best man at this wedding.
Giving a hell of a speech.
I'm riding little buggies around planets. I'm still captain. I love all my crew. There's a clone of me, but you know what? It's not bringing me down that much. It's not even making me question like myself anymore. He's that comfortable with who he is.
Yeah.
So I really like this aspect of the movie for Picard and like them not making it about his legacy and his kids or no kids. So I will give full credit for that.
I do agree that is something that they've gone to quite often in Trek, the legacy, the children thing. And yeah, I agree. I like his vibes. I like his energy. Oh, to have Jean-Luc give a speech at a wedding, that's the dream, isn't it?
Oh my God, Act 1 of this movie is incredible.
It's just nothing but charm. Nothing but charm. They overfilled the bucket with charm, and it's just oozing out.
Yeah, the whole because you actually see the Riker Troy wedding for the most part. We see the end where he's doing the speech, and the speech is lovely, and everyone's having these nice moments. Data sings. It's wonderful. And then as soon as they get back to the bridge, they're still so charming talking about how they're going to have a Betazoid wedding as well when they get back to Beta Z. But you have to be naked on Beta Z. And they've established that lore for years.
Oh, really?
Oh,
okay.
Yes. That's not a thing they made up for this movie. Because I know you skip Deanna episodes a lot. Mostly the ones where her mom shows up.
Mostly the ones with her mother, which I know is when they explore a lot of the Betazoid
So it is very
lore.
well established that you're naked on Beta Z a lot. Right. So this is just actually a very funny, genuine thing that they all would have to do, go be at a naked wedding.
And Worf is nervous about it for some reason?
A little like he doesn't want anyone to see what he's got going on.
Apparently.
And that's weird, because it feels like Klingons would love being naked.
Would be about that life.
Mm-hmm. Maybe not during romantic sessions. Maybe he's just like, I go nuts. You strip me down if as soon as I'm naked.
Yeah. Klingons, we go into the blood feral or whatever if you put us all naked in the same room or something like that.
There's a reason we wear 3 layers of armor. It's the only thing holding us back.
Absolutely. So I could easily see something like that going on as well.
I could see something like that. Ooh, speaking of 3 layers of armor, I'm sorry, we're already off Tom Hardy, but dear God.
It's fine. I was feeling good and wrapped up on Tom Hardy. He gave a good performance.
Oh, no.
His character was a good premise that was underutilized.
I've got a slight bit more.
Oh.
He is fighting for his life in this costume. Oh my God. he can't put his arms all the way down. Did you notice
that it is very out. Yeah.
Yeah, he's slightly out, and this is clearly not a choice he's made. This costume is way too tight and stiff. He can barely move. He can lift his arms a little. He can't drop them completely, obviously. And he's still doing quite a good performance in a costume I really want to love.
I
really want to love this costume.
Second to second, I was flip-flopping on this costume. Literally, there were moments where I was like, this is maybe the ugliest costume that has ever been committed to cinema. And then Tom Hardy would do something and I'd be like, or does this rule? Does this fucking rule? I could not figure it out.
Is that this movie in a capsule? This costume. Because sometimes in some lighting I'd be like, oh fuck, that looks so good. And then other lighting I'd be like, oh, you're in like a plasticky mood ring. And you can't breathe and you can't move. It really depended on the room.
Because it wasn't just about the color, because like the coloring was this layered, I forget what it's called, like whether it's like a pearlescent or an opalescent, but it's like a multi-layer color where depending on the angle and the lighting and things like that, it looks like a different color and it can change up a little bit like that. It wasn't just the coloring and the reflections that made it look bad or weird. Sometimes it was just like, sometimes it did just look more plasticky. Sometimes it was his arms couldn't go down. Sometimes it was like, it just made him look sick. And it made like all of the other people look like really weak. And then there were other moments where I was like, no, it makes them look like night stalkers that are horrifying. Like they're the coolest people in the world. Like it only reflects because they're not used to light. Like it just moment to moment, I could not make up my mind whether I like these.
Absolutely agree. Because even the aliens wearing them, sometimes they looked really skinny and not very scary at all. And then sometimes I'd be like, oh no, they're so badass. Look at this big crew and their cool purpley, opalescent, translucent, some kind of essence uniforms. But I was like, at some points I was like, oh, I'd love to cosplay this. And I'm like, you know what, never mind. Although I bet I could make it because it looks like it's just plastic. But then I couldn't be able to move. Yeah. For the life of me, this is the most like range of love and hate of an outfit I've ever seen.
If someone cosplayed it, it seems like the type of thing that if you cosplayed it and wore it to a convention, it would look like shit.
It would look like garbage.
Garbage on a convention floor under fluorescent lighting. If you cosplayed it and went to a Halloween party, it would fucking rule. It is just such a chameleon of a costume.
Is this why the Remans don't like light?
Yeah, they're like, we look stupid in
Our
light.
Costumes look
if we're
so
fully
bad
lit, we
in
look
light.
like an idiot.
No, lower. Look how good we look. So don't turn those lights on. It doesn't hurt their eyes or anything.
Yeah.
They just know they look bad.
Yeah, it's so weird.
We need good lighting.
We need good lighting.
We
gotta
good
have
lighting.
good lighting.
So this whole movie I'm just watching. Like he's dying as a character, and every now and then I can see him dying as an actor. Like I can't move, and I bet when he does move, it was squeaky. It looked like it was squeaky.
It looked squeaky. It also looked hard to breathe in. There were a few moments where I could see his chest kind of like fighting against the costume as he was struggling to get some air in. It did not seem very friendly to performance, which kind of gives him just, like you were saying, more credence to Tom Hardy doing a great job to be like, he didn't look like an idiot. Like it's a level of like it's a level of like Michael Keaton not being able to turn his neck and having to do a full body 90 degrees to look at a villain and still seeming like a cool Batman. Like Tom Hardy to look like still a pretty cool dude doing this, I think is a huge credit to his ability as an actor and his ability to physically power through as well.
I can get behind that.
Yeah, and a very small bean of a Tom Hardy as well.
Oh my
young
God,
baby boy.
What a boy!
Yeah,
2002, over 20 years ago. That's crazy that he was a Nemesis that young.
Yeah.
The Nemesis just getting younger and younger.
Every year they're getting younger and
coming out younger.
Yeah.
I will say, watching this movie, I think if I didn't know that was Tom Hardy, it's so weird because I'm like, I feel like I'm watching James McAvoy. The whole movie, he just gave me such McAvoy vibes, even though I know Tom Hardy's British. And so, like, this is like a totally fine voice for him to have, and I haven't gotten just that used to him as Venom. Like I also liked him in Inception.
Yeah.
And but like it's just it's McAvoy vibes.
It's McAvoy vibes, and
which is crazy because he's also as a Xavier.
Well, that's what I said when like Tom Hardy came out on screen in this movie, is that I was like, he doesn't look like a young Jean-Luc Picard, but he does look like a young Professor X, weirdly.
Is it because he's fully shaved head?
I don't know. Like, I don't even know if I would agree with you that he feels like James McAvoy, but he feels like someone who should have been in the running to play young Professor Xavier.
James McAvoy.
But I don't know if his look suits young Jean-Luc Picard, and I know that doesn't make any sense. I know I am a hypocrite, and this doesn't make sense, but he should not be young Jean-Luc, but he is perfect casting for young Professor Xavier in the universe where Professor X is played by Sir Patrick Stewart.
Okay. This is a real good and bad lighting again. You can play Professor X, but you shouldn't be Jean-Luc Picard.
For all of the thematic mentions of mirrors, maybe this movie is a mirror. You see what you want to see.
You see a good costume, you see a bad costume. You see a Professor X or you see a Picard. It's got it all, baby.
It's got everything that you need. Yeah. Yeah, and now he's Sir Tom Hardy because the Queen fucking loved Venom.
The Queen loved Venom, and that's my pinned tweet. And if Twitter ever goes away, I'll cry. Yeah. It's my favorite thing I've ever tweeted in my life.
You'll have to post it again on other platforms.
I should probably
You should start getting ahead of to screenshot it. You might want to get ahead of the curve on that one. So one random note, and I don't know, it's probably a censor thing, but it's the censor. Yeah, we should say it the way that it's said on Star Trek, censor. It's probably a censorship thing. But one 80-yard line that I noticed pretty consistently, or at least like 3 times, I want to say, was that they kept saying DNA when the mouths were saying blood.
Oh,
so there were a couple moments where it was like Shinzon, where they were like, Shinzon needs your, and the lips said blood. But what came out was an 80-yard line saying DNA. And it was like, well, he's aging rapidly. And to prevent aging rapidly, he needs your DNA. And it was visibly 80-yard that they didn't want actors saying the word blood for some reason. That he doesn't want Jean-Luc Picard's blood. He wants Jean-Luc's DNA.
I mean, he took a vial of the blood when he had Jean-Luc. We introduced blood.
I think visibly we're allowed to show, but they didn't want characters saying he wants your blood. And maybe it sounds like a lazy vampire or something. He wants your blood.
He is kind of getting pale and dying, and he has a Nosferatu-esque uniform.
That is so maybe it was to avoid parallels to vampirism, to be like, anytime a character was like, he wants your blood, then it's like, nah, that sounds like Count Dracula. He wants your DNA.
Because they would say transfusion.
They would say transfusion.
And that's only
because he needs your
blood.
DNA.
You don't transfuse DNA.
But apparently, according to this movie, you do. Yeah. So that was just a weird. I noticed
I
it.
agree.
Just something of note.
I think maybe a vampire thing, because that's such a weird thing, because like we were watching it the Blu-ray version. So it's not like that was like the CBS edit and they didn't want them to say blood or something, like on a TV version, I would believe it, even though that would be really deep censoring for TV to take the word blood out when you actually have shown some blood. But interesting.
Yeah, I don't know, something of note.
Something of note.
Another performance that is only around for a little bit, and another underutilized character, but Ron Perlman is the Viceroy. Hot dog, man. This guy, every time Perlman's on screen, it's a delight, ain't it?
Perlman rocks because there is so much prosthetic happening, and all the extras are also in prosthetics, and a couple other guys have lines in this same prosthetic, but Perlman just pops, even under everything. Like, his voice is obviously so cool, but even just like his expressions and like everything he's got going on, he's just so magnetic. You just can't stop watching him. God, he's so good.
Yeah.
Why isn't he just the praetor? Why isn't he in charge? Why are you following Shinzon?
Why do you have telepathy? Like, why do you have telepathy? You seem to be a telepathic warrior that is also kind and raised a surrogate human.
Yeah, if he was the leader, I would understand.
Yeah.
I would get it. I'd follow Ron Perlman.
Yeah, I would get that way more. Interesting. But yeah, really cool. And also, like, it's Ron Perlman with Ron Perlman's voice. And then they also digitize it a bit where they bump up the low end because it's an alien species. So they're like changing how it sounds in post-production. And when you take what is already Ron Perlman and then bump up the low end all of a sudden, it's like adding it is just adding a rocket engine to a streetcar. Like, whoa, what is happening here? You've done so much.
To the point where he didn't have lines for a while. They showed him a few times, but he didn't have lines until I think it was just him and Tom Hardy. And he spoke, and both of us went, whoa, this guy's voice. This is powerful. I feel like Optimus Prime just walked into the room.
It is very Optimus. It's that strong energy.
You could power a truck.
Yeah.
With that voice.
His voice is a truck.
You don't have a spark. You just have a voice, and you're Optimus Prime.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, Ron Perlman should have a shirt that just says, "My voice is a truck."
And that just explains, and everyone would be like, yeah, absolutely.
And a bumper sticker on his truck that says, "My other truck is my voice."
Oh, God, a lot of layers.
Yeah. Mirrors. Mirrors. You got to keep holding up mirrors to yourself, over and over again.
You got to know that your voice is who you are and it powers you.
Absolutely.
Very strong.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one thing that I do kind of want to pick at a little bit is one of the sillier or just kind of messier plot lines in this movie is the whole super weapon that they have. I don't really know why or what. Like, I get the whole clone storyline. We're going for a thematic parallel of nature versus nurture, and is our memories our life, or is it our DNA, and all of this type of stuff. And then also there's just like a super radiation, and there's kind of a Death Star, but it's really not that big of a concern. It's really becomes more of just a normal dogfight between two ships at the end.
It does. And it's actually like a really cool idea, though, because it's a Death Star in the way that it doesn't destroy the planet, it only destroys organics. So it doesn't blow it up. It just kills everyone on it. So it's like, oh, that's a cool idea. And it would actually be interesting, I think, if they leaned into it, because the idea, as I understood it, is this radiation is banned, but also no one would ever work with it because it's so dangerous it would just probably kill you as you like figured out how to use it and make a weapon out of it. So you would have to be insane to make a weapon out of this. It's so deadly. But they don't really lean into like, oh my God, he's a madman. He's made a weapon out of Thanarian radiation. Which I think is what you would do normally with something like this of like, that's so, like you'd have to be crazy to power your ship with that. It'll kill you. But they don't really. They're like, oh, it's just a stable weapon, and he's really figured it out. Like, there's nothing risky
threat.
about it seems. His ship works great.
To the point where, like, I was expecting his ship to kind of self-implode or something to go wrong, but it really just kind of gets blasted away with regular fire after a head-on collision.
Well, no, Data blows it up with a phaser.
Oh, sorry, Data blows it up.
Data.
Yes, sorry.
So it
is sensitive. Yes,
it is pretty easy to blow up. One phaser does explode it, although it's already taken a lot of damage.
Yeah.
So I don't know if one phaser would have normally done it.
Fair enough. Withdrawn.
But yeah, it's like a cool idea that is not executed well. It could be very like, oh shit, you're insane. Like, we have to stop you. And then Picard would have to be like, am I capable of such cruelty and insanity? Because they don't show the weapon enough. Because it doesn't even really log in for a while that it's the same thing that killed everyone in the Senate.
Yes.
Because that felt like a bioweapon.
Oh, that absolutely felt like a weird bioweapon. And when they're like, it's a radiation laser that'll destroy a planet, it wasn't until like the last 10 minutes of the movie when they show it, I'm like, oh, that's kind of like the thing from the beginning. Oh, it's supposed to be the thing from the beginning.
Oh, because also he isn't the one who used it in the beginning. The female Romulan did.
Yeah.
So, like, there was no reason to connect those things.
Was that the same female Romulan who redeems herself later?
Yes, it was the same woman. She had a day.
She had a day. She
wiped out democracy and then was like, ooh, I shouldn't have done that.
Actually, no. Yeah,
You're kind of a jerk.
She didn't do enough to be redeemed. Or at least not in our morality. Maybe in Romulan culture, everyone would probably be like, yeah, whatever. You killed a bunch of politicians and now you're in charge. Clearly, this has been happening a bunch. We're losing clones. We're changing government so quickly due to these type of actions. So sure.
But also, like, the fact that she would, like, wipe out the government to support, like, the lower caste people, the Remans, is like, oh, maybe you were a good person, but now you're also like, nah, I'm turning on the Remans. Fuck this lower caste people. There's way too much going on morally and ethically and politically
Romulans are fucking complicated.
They are complicated.
They got a lot of weird stuff
I didn't even know they
going
had
on.
a Romulus and a Remus. I thought they were just a Romulus.
Yeah, right?
Until this movie.
Yeah, well, here they are.
Both sides.
They have a Remus. They're the miners on that side, which it's been a long time since I've seen it. I actually don't know if I've seen it since it was in theaters, but that first J.J. Abrams Star Trek.
Oh, I've seen that one a bunch.
Oh, really? Yeah. Okay. This character from Nemesis really reminded me of
what's his name?
Nero?
I think Nero.
Nero from that movie where
Was that Jim Caviezel?
No.
Eric Bana?
I believe Eric Bana. It was Eric Bana. They both have very similar faces. That's a very reasonable mix-up.
I wasn't embarrassed about that.
But it felt very Nero of like, I'm a space miner and I'm fucking crazy. Like I am mad as hell and I don't really care about politics. I care about being mad as hell. Mm-hmm. But from what I recall, I'm like, Nero feels like a little bit of a better version of this.
Nero was, because his laser also made more sense because it was a giant mining laser. And he was using it to blow up planets because he was, as you said, he was on a mining planet. And then he was like, I'm just going to use the giant mining laser and I'm going to blow up Vulcan. And so, it's made for that. It's not like, oh, no, what is this? It's like, it's a mining laser.
It's a mining. It's meant to destroy planets. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I agree. Nero was a much better version of
Nero did feel this inspired. It did feel inspired by this in many regards.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I need to talk about, we've gone through many performances, but we didn't talk about Brent Spiner yet.
Oh, yes.
And just, wow. I know we haven't covered that much TNG, but every single time I know we talk about Brent Spiner, but holy shit. I think you can get so used to him being good that it kind of washes over you. But the difference in performance between B4 and Data is just masterclass.
Yeah.
It's so obvious who is who, but it's also like they're both androids and like they're both got their own thing going on, but you're at a lower level. We can tell you have less programming, even though you're just a human man pretending to be an android. It's, God, there's so much happening. He's so good.
Him pretending to be, him being Data, pretending to be B4 is in an infiltration mission. Every variant of Data that he has played on the TNG series.
Because he also plays Lore, his evil brother.
Lore, Singh as well, and like how he what he does with Singh. It is really incredible. The more TNG you watch, the more you really appreciate what he is doing with this character and with his performances.
Yeah, it's so good that you can sometimes like think, oh, that's just the android performer they hired. And you're like, no, that's a man who has figured out android performance to a T.
Or it's easy to think that's a guy who's good at one thing until you see all the variants that he is actually good at. To be like, like I can sing, I can sing and dance, I can play a human, I can play the evil version, I can do multiple variations of this.
I can make you bawl your eyes out when I die in this movie. I cried real hard. It was a very quiet cry, but because I think I wouldn't have originally when this movie came out because it was considered bad, and also I think when it came out, I didn't really believe that was the end of Data. It was like, he's probably fine. I bet he's floating through space or something. As the years go by and you find out it's like he doesn't come back. Like when we get to TNG, he's been rebuilt or whatever, or like when we get to Picard, but that's 20 years later. So watching it now and knowing that this was his real death was way more tears than in the 2000s when I saw this.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it actually made me question. I'm like, is the one we see in Picard, is that B4?
No, they have in Picard, they established the B4 memory transfer did not work. And I forget who rebuilt Data. It wasn't Geordi, but someone rebuilt him.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Yeah. But yeah, I would say that TNG and this movie as well as a whole, I think it is very clear, and society would agree, that Patrick Stewart is the best actor on this cast. An incredible generational talent, the best actor on this series. Brent Spiner is perhaps the most versatile actor on this cast that I would say.
The most impressive?
Ooh, interesting.
Like the one who can do the most things.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've seen Brent Spiner in other stuff. Like he was on a guest star of Leverage. And honestly, I was like, that's very forgettable. You're just a regular, because he's just a regular man. He didn't do a lot with it. He didn't do nothing with it, but I wasn't like, oh my God, I got Brent Spiner. Yeah. But when you see him play any version of Data or Noonien Singh or any of these characters, he really hits you in the face with how good he is.
He knows the range of this character. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Whereas, Patrick Stewart is Sir Patrick Stewart. He is
He is
the best
phenomenal.
actor in the cast. But Brent Spiner is doing some wild things that you wouldn't see Patrick Stewart necessarily do.
You wouldn't. And I really like this as an end for Data. I actually really think, considering like because he does kind of need an end. It's dumb that B4 lives at the end, but he was aging so much. They were like, we can't keep making you look like you're an ageless robot. So I get killing him off. And I really like this because in First Contact, they were going to blow up the ship and they were going to kill all the Borg. And Picard went back to save Data because Data was still with the Borg Queen. And in this movie, Data dies because he goes back to save Picard. And I just think that's a really nice end of his story of like, I'm dying to save the man who came back for me.
Yeah.
And I just think like, they all come back for each other. But I think like movie-wise, that is the most iconic. Like Picard went back singularly to go get Data from the Borg Queen and saved him. And this was Data went back for Picard. It just makes me really touched inside.
Aw, that's beautiful.
It's a lovely little story.
I love
good
it.
Storytelling.
It's good. The movie's good.
The movie's good, you guys.
It's
I'm
not
sorry.
great, but it's good.
It's
not great, but it's good.
That's law.
Let's go in for the close.
That's law.
Let's ask the final question of what would you change? So now that we've discussed everything we've discussed, what would you change about this if you could change anything? Before we do ask that final question, we will remind you, as we do every week, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podcast Addict, or wherever you get your podcasts. It helps us find new audience. It helps us get recommended to new people. That's why podcasts ask you to do this. It's because of the algorithms that Apple and Spotify and all these places have. The more something's reviewed, the more likely they are to recommend it to a random person with similar interests. And then that's how we find new people. And then when new people find us as well, they do check those reviews, so it actually has an effect on whether or not someone's likely to give us a shot.
Yeah, guys, help us game the system. Leave us a 5-star review, and that'll fool people. It'll fool the algorithms. Or
Wow.
tell the algorithms what it needs to know. Is it fooling if it's true?
You went pretty aggressive. You went for an attack ad for how to do this.
I wanna hack Apple.
Huh.
With reviews?
With reviews
That are genuine.
Yes.
Yes, this is my plan.
Yeah, I don't think that's
thought
how.
it through.
Yeah.
I'm the Shinzon
I don't think that's
of the
how
podcast.
tricking the system works.
I think it would be tricking the system if I put on a VPN and left them all. But I trust you guys.
Now that's a
tricking
trick.
the system.
That is a scam.
Okay, so you want me
That
to...
is a scam.
You think I should just use the system the way it was built and ask reviewers to leave reviews?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, we can do that.
Yeah.
We can do that. It helps.
So that's a free way to help us.
To recap.
And that's a free way. And if you heard all of that and you're like, free's not good enough, someone needs to give extra help to these people.
Diana needs help.
And that's where you can go over to our Patreon and you can subscribe to us as content creators. You can subscribe on a monthly or a yearly level, and you get cool bonuses for doing so. You can get our webcomic early. You can get these episodes early and ad-free. You can also get exclusive bonus episodes of the podcast every single month. This month, we did Hellboy, the Crooked Man, as our exclusive Patreon bonus episode, which is up right now, so you can go listen to our Hellboy episode. $10 a month gets you access to all those exclusive episodes, including the back catalog, or you can pay $5 for an individual episode. So if you just want to hear that Hellboy one and you want to kick in $5 to the network, it helps us keep everything running here, and then you get that bonus episode.
It's all good stuff. I also really like the option of if you think you're going to subscribe for a while, you can buy it for a whole year and then you get a month free. And you also don't get your card charged every month. You pay all at once.
Lots of cool
ways,
depending on what your budget, and you can just check it out. It's over at patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. That is patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. And thank you to all of our current and future patrons.
Thank you so much, patrons. Enjoy Hellboy the Crooked Man episode.
And now, let's go in for the close. Let's ask the final question. Now that we've discussed everything we've discussed, what would you change about this if you could change anything? Diana, what would you change?
We are going to remove Deanna gets mind violated. Don't need that. Although I think she could still probably telepathically find him out in space. That's just fun. Maybe she just doesn't like the cut of his jib. I think that's still fun that she does that. So she still gets to do that. My biggest change is going to be I really want to fear Shinzon and this weapon. So I'm going to add that there is a second use of the weapon. I think he's probably going to blow up the dilithium mines that he was raised in. I think that would be pretty dope. He really doesn't like those. I know a lot of his, like, it would have to be like he like got his people out and it's just full of Romulans right now, like the guards.
They stormed the capital city. And,
and they put all the guards and all the I was gonna say lawyers, sorry, the politicians, the people they hate in the dilithium mines, and then he uses the weapon on the mines. Because we do have to see this weapon in action. It literally never gets used. We only see it in the Senate in like a mini handheld form, and we don't even realize it's the same weapon. So absolutely, I think if we see this weapon get used on a mass scale on the Romulans, then we will be worried about him going to Earth, and we'll be like, oh, we do have to stop him here. It adds more urgency. It adds more danger. That's going to be my main change. And then just a little personal change I need. I do want more Geordi and Data, because this is the death of Data, and Geordi's barely in it, and their friendship's really important to me. I think it would have been even just a small thing when Data leaves at the end, when he leaves the ship, Geordi's like helping him. He lowers the shield so he can jump out. And I think Geordi doesn't know Data's not coming back. And I really would have liked if after he'd already dropped the shield, like he realized Data wasn't coming back.
Oh.
And they kind of had a moment. I really think that was needed for me. Their friendship is really important to me. So I think you still could have had, like, once the shield's down, Data can still go through, but it's like once he's past it and Geordi can't get him back. So those are my changes for Star Trek Nemesis. Andrew, what would you change?
I love those. I agree with all of that. I think that's fantastic. I think that this movie, because it is good and not great, there's like a bunch of like things there's a bunch of little things that I would really love to change about this. The Geordi thing was one of them. I'm 1,000% with you on that. There was even one moment when I think it was before. When it was B4 or whatever you want. Okay. Not before something, but B4.
B4, okay.
When B4 says something of like, who is that? And Geordi goes, that's Commander Data. And then like Data walks away or whatever. And I'm like, that would have been a great moment for Geordi to just be like, that's my friend. Like, just to call him a friend instead of Commander Data, like, instead, like, to add a humanity to it. There were a few moments like that where I'm like, I would have liked Geordi talking to B4 to kind of show what his relationship with Data is.
I think that would be lovely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to be like,
behind that.
This is my best friend's pseudo brother at this point.
So you're going to be family.
Yes. Yeah. So I think that he should be family. And as well, I think that the contrivance of the teleporter breaking after sending Picard over and then Data having to do the jettison through space thing, it looked cool. But I'm like, why not actually just have the Remans? The Remans. Yeah. Why not just have the Remans get a hold of Picard and kidnap him again? It makes more sense.
Because the shields were down. You can just transport them.
Yeah, it would make way more sense than the teleporter breaking after one use and then having to do this cool set piece. And it was a cool set piece and a fun idea, but it was just a little bit too contrived there for me.
You can
so I would change
cool
that.
Set piece if they teleport him away, because their teleporters would still be broken.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh. But yeah, like, our teleporters are broken. Picard gets kidnapped.
Yes. Not our teleporters have one shot
rather
left.
than, we're sending Picard over. Oops, the teleporter's broke. Let's do a cool thing. No, I'd like to have Picard kidnapped.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. No. And then to continue my just like shotgun blast of rapid fire changes, the last two, these are intertwined as well. For these two to be a mirror of one another, I think I wanted to feel the fear a little bit more. Like I kind of mentioned that earlier, that Shinzon, I wanted to feel afraid of him a little bit more. And the viceroy he kind of talks about where it's like, this guy was the only one who showed kindness to me. He raised me. Like, this is my family. And I think there was a moment after, like, before they collide, before the ships do the ramming thing, where it's just like, when he's talking like, I am you. And I think it really needs to hammer home to be like, we were raised in different environments. And Picard is always like, well, that means you can be good. Abandon everyone around you and be good. And I think there needs to be a moment where he's like, the people around me are my family. What would you do for your family, Jean-Luc? Because I think that is something that is not explored, to be like, well, yes, but when you've been raised in a bad environment, you could be good, and everyone who took care of you is disposable. And it never really, when Jean-Luc is like, well, you could always change and be good. I'm like, that's true, but he has a pseudo father figure and a bunch of people who raised him that he loves and cares about like family. and he's not going to abandon them just because you tell him that he could be good based on a morality he's never lived, even if he has that potential. So I kind of wanted that reckoning between the two of them, of Shinzon being like, I would do anything for my crew and family. What would you do? And Jean-Luc being like, we got to get this guy out of the sky right now. Like that's
He's going to blow us up.
And I kind of want that to be the moment when Jean-Luc's like, we can't just talk this guy into being nice. He's going to keep fighting for his crew until he's dead or we are.
He's got the power of family.
Yeah.
I like that.
And then my last little nugget was there was one moment when they were going through defensive maneuvers and they bring up like the Kirk maneuver or whatever, which is a cute little side thing. When Shinzon is like, I know what you're going to do because I am you, I think that would have been maybe a charming moment for two different things. Picard could be like, Riker, you're in command. What would you do? And Riker's like, ram him. Be like,
Riker would ram him.
And that also shows one of the strength of Picard, of Jean-Luc, is the people he's surrounded himself with. So I'm like, he's surrounded himself with one wild card non-strategist. Or be like, computer, pick a random page from attack procedures, and it lists, and like the computer starts listing things, and it's like, Kirk procedure number 5, and he's like, hit him with that one. That's something I'd never do. And like to be like, okay, you're going for a wild card thing. So that's something I thought could be fun. Yeah.
I like that a lot. No.
That's it. Those are my. I know I hit like 5 wild card things there.
We have improved this movie by like 75%. I think we just made it the best movie.
Yeah.
Oh, we didn't change his costume, but we don't know if we like it.
But we don't know.
We might like it.
We changed the lighting around the costume
so that shady.
It always is shady.
Always shady.
And then people make a cosplay out of it, and they get to cons, and they're like, "This sucks. What happened?
This looks so bad on stage."
No. Well,
we've done it.
That's going to be it for this week, talking about Star Trek Nemesis. We will be back next week. We will be talking about Venom, The Last Dance.
Is it about basketball? We'll find out.
We'll find out. We'll be talking about it next week on the podcast. And as well, before I sign off, I will remind you all that don't forget, November 2nd, we are doing Extra Life Game Day, a 24-hour live stream to Twitch. It's all raising money for Children's Miracle Network hospitals. Raises money for a great cause. There's lots of cool bonuses as well. If you donate $20, you get entered into our draw where we have deluxe video game controllers. We have signed copies of Diana's book. Hello. We have t-shirts from TeePublic. We also now have copies of Nobody Saves the World, courtesy of Drinkbox Studios, which is an incredibly fun game, and you can get it on a console of your choice if you win that one. $20 gets you entered into those prize draws. $30 gets you stand-up comedy albums from everyone on the network. $50 gets you all of the 2023 Patreon exclusive episodes of all of the podcasts on the network. So a huge back catalog of entertainment. And also, it's just all for a good cause. So give whatever you can. Even if it's not about getting something back, give what you can.
And you might get something back.
And then come hang out with us on November 2nd when we're going to be doing live streamed episodes of all the podcasts on the network. And we're going to be doing games and lots of fun stuff. If you want to donate and find out more, head over to extralife.fromsuperheroes.com. That's extralife.fromsuperheroes.com. And we'll talk to y'all next week. In the meantime, you can find me online. I am at Ivimey, Ivimey.
You can find me at Pics of Diana or Words of Diana on Twitter and Tumblr.
And you can find both of us most places at From Superheroes or FromSuperheroes.com. And we'll talk to y'all next week.
Bye.